Hey YouTube, it's Morgan, aka the Mountaineer. I'm here at the parking lot. And it looks like over there, right beside that fence, is my trail, Rocky Ridge Trail. So, I'm gonna cross this road and get to hiking. Alright, I can already tell this is gonna be fun. Got, looks like a little obstacle course up here to go through. You can see the blue square blaze trail marker, but start up this hill. Apparently, from what I read and looking at some charts, the beginning is steep, then it kind of flattens out, or at least gets to the point, and then the rest is a gradual downhill. So should be interesting. I guess I'm growing as a person. See a tiny little snake down there moving along, and I didn't pee myself. I'm not good at identification. I probably should get better, but I don't know, maybe just a black snake. Either way, I'm not gonna mess with it. My heart is thumping. I'm sure you can hear my labored breathing. Going up this little hill, I stopped for a bit of water and to look at my tracking app, All Trails, and it said I've only gone 0.3 miles. But it looks like I've gone up about 450 or so feet in elevation in that short amount of time. So took a little break before tackling. I think it'll top out up here pretty shortly and then kind of drop off after that. But it's a nice day. My car thermometer said 63 when I got out, and with a full pack on, long sleeves, long pants, and this bright sunlight, it feels about 100. I'm a cold weather person, but anyhow, thought I'd just share this neat little stretch of trail. These flowers over there. Get some water, and I'm gonna get back to it. Well guys, I just came literally like 75 feet. Before, I was looking down at this bit of trail, and I don't know if you'll be able to see it. Let me see. I think right here you can see two blue blazes on a tree. And that's basically where I was. Came up along here. There's the actual trail going out that way. This is just a little spur to these rock outcroppings. Pretty neat. I'm not gonna stop here. If that rock was a little bit bigger and a little bit further on, that'd be a pretty cool place to pop out my chair, stove, all that stuff, and make some coffee. But as it is, I'm gonna keep on going. Uh-oh. Got the trail sign there. Looks like it's rotted and fallen apart, or probably more likely someone's knocked it off on purpose, but luckily they have this trail blazed. The blue square blazes for the trail. I just came from that direction. You can probably make them out on a couple trees. Can't see anything down there, but I see one straight ahead on that tree up there. And I have this All Trails map, and it looks like maybe that's the Pine Ridge Trail going to the left. Take this trail, and looks like it should be correct, but if not, I'll know where to double back and hit. It looks like I was wrong after all. to Rocky Ridge Trail, so I was supposed to go back there. I read the pictures of a trail guide I took after I got this point, just 150 feet or so from that excuse me, junction. But looks like this is a road to service this wellhead or whatever this thing is. So I'm gonna head back that way and start down. I might actually, you know what, since this is kind of off trail and a nice opening, I'm about halfway through the hike. Looks like this might be it's kind of squishy. Might be a decent place to set up my chair and my stove and get my coffee on, do a little pipe smoking and chatting. Eat my Little Debbie strawberry shortcake roll before finishing the trail. Unfortunately, not spectacular view along here, but it looks like there might be some poison ivy. Okay, getting to some drier stuff. Yeah, this looks like a decent place. Try to probably just look off. I'll sit facing that way, away from the sun. Well, catch you in a minute. Before I get too far, before I get set up and start the coffee and everything, I thought I'd go ahead and get my pipe lit. Try to get a little shot down in there in the bowl. What I'm smoking today, of course, my backpacking pipe, Falcon with the Meerschaum bowl, but in it I have some cutting scraps from the Kanawha Doom blend I took out of the press and cut yesterday. It's just a little mixture of some ribbon that got cut loose and some little chunks of the flake. So just initial lighting and initial puffs, man, it's a tasty blend. I think I'm gonna like it. Instead of coffee made at home or instant coffee, I brought my AeroPress. Sounds like my water's about boiled. If y'all haven't seen this before, an AeroPress, it's a great way to make pretty much a single cup of coffee. Makes it strong. Now generally, well, it smells so good. Generally water it down just a little bit. Not so much to dumb down the flavor, or just to stretch the amount of coffee I get. But it's basically these two cylinders that has a plunge. This is the plunger, and that's, I don't know, the body of it. And it comes with this end cap, and it takes these paper filters. You can buy stainless ones, which I've used a lot, but I got an AeroPress for my office, and the ease of using the paper ones compared to having to go and clean off the filter for each cup, it's so much better. So I kind of reverted back to the paper filters for the house too. But basically you put your coffee in there. Comes with a stirrer. It has a funnel. It has a hexagonal head, and the funnel you can use to put coffee in there. Then you can turn it over if you have a cup that's of a smaller diameter than that. And the funnel, the top of the funnel is hexagonal shaped that matches up with that. And use that to press in a smaller cup. But anyhow, going to get to it. Got a Yeti tumbler. I generally top her off to about top it off to about an inch left. Usually I just use a spoon instead of the stirrer that comes with it, but let me empty my hands, make this a little bit easier. But I'll stir it up, stir it for 10 or 12 seconds, and then top off the top this off the press. Screw my cap on with the filter, and then press it into the cup, and then, ooh, that's hot. And then, like I say, top off the cup with just a little bit more water. Get her right to the edge there. I had a fun time trying to get my stove set up. It's that same little ultralight Esbit deal. But anyway, it's the same little tripod type. I always hold the bottom before I invert it. A lot of people will actually put the cap on and have it set up like that. Put the coffee in, stir it, and then put the plunger in real quick. This, what I do, is called the inverted method, and I just like it better so it's not dripping through. But then you just press it through. But it's a little tiny stove, and I thought, well, this gravel, that'll be good. I had a hard time getting it balanced, and I found a couple bigger chunks of gravel to put it on, but then when I lifted it off, it's it came off the steady way I had it, so I couldn't put my cup back on there, my pot back on there. But obviously this is a very heavy way to make coffee when I'm backpacking. Like I've said before, I try to be ultra light, or at least as close to it as possible. And so Starbucks V is the way to go with my setup. But since I'm trying to actually artificially increase my weight to get it somewhat more like the pack weight I would have on an actual trip, I don't mind carrying it out this time. I don't know how well you can make that out, but that the Esbit tabs are a great fuel source. You know, solid fuel. You don't have to worry about spills or anything like that. You don't have the extra weight of, say, like a gas canister for an isobutane type stove. But man, it gunks up your cookware. In fact, earlier, I'm glad I noticed it, but whenever I was taking this out of the cozy, I have an extra layer of the insulation in the bottom here, just loose, and you can maybe kind of make out that's gunky. Well, it stuck to it, it adhered to it, and it's cooled off already. But boy, if I hadn't noticed that, tried to, put it on the flame, that wouldn't have been cool. Now I'm just going to let that last little bit of the tab burn out. And I tell you, this tobacco blend, I am enjoying. I mean, it has, I think, like any home blend, especially when you smoke it right after blending, you know, it's going to have some rough edges. Even if you used aged components and stuff, I still do think that there's a little bit of variability. I think that the time and age, in my opinion, you have a little bit of an essence from this component spreading through the other components, and vice versa. They just all kind of intermix, where it's just more consistent. You know, it's not as variable. I'm jumpy. I have a fly on my hand. I saw that snake earlier. I think that's the first snake I've ever seen hiking or backpacking. and that's my phobia. That's probably my only true phobia. It's not a phobia, but mountain lion, the prospect of seeing mountain lions or not seeing them, that's the problem. Out in the wild, that gives me the heebie-jeebies a little bit. In this area of America, basically the only bears that I would see would be black bears, and I think, not to diminish the possible dangers, but I think, you know, they don't scare me as much as long as you take proper precautions, bear bagging, and I'm very careful about when I'm backpacking about keeping my hands and face clean and stuff, and not getting cross-contamination, trying to keep food scents off my gear and myself as much as possible, and then, you know, go out and hang up the food at a distance and kind of try to keep a little distance from where I prepare and eat food to where I sleep. Man, cardinal going through the trees there, just so brilliant red. It is a nice day. It's just beautiful out here. You know, this isn't exactly a great view right here. Basically just trees, but it's much better than staring at a TV. I mean, that sky is so blue. I don't see a cloud in the sky. Well, off that way I see a cloud. You know, it's a real deep blue right in this area, and it lightens up as you get to the horizon. The sun's not quite right overhead, but it's pretty close. You can see the angle of the shadow from my hat build about right there. Like I say, it's almost 1 o'clock, about 10 till. I haven't seen any people on this trail, but boy, I tell you, there were a lot of people. Saw a lot of people when I was on the road, and I don't know if they have some sort of equestrian event or something going on, but as I was driving through, saw a number of horses and horse trailers, and so that's kind of interesting. Some of these trails are hiking only, and some of them have you can mountain bike on. You can really hear the birds. That little sucker's still smoking a little bit. Still a little hot. I'll wait a second to put that back in there. It's kind of neat. This AeroPress people, there's actually like an AeroPress World Championship. You know, people are so crazy. You can see me, I just kind of get about the right amount of beans and about the right amount of water, and I boil the water and basically put it in right off the boil. So around 212 degrees Fahrenheit, 100 degrees Celsius. And there are a lot of stuff you see on coffee people talk about. I think 170 degrees Fahrenheit is what they say is generally a pretty good optimal temperature, and that, you know, it's supposed to make it more bitter. And I'm just like, man, I don't know, I like bitterness in my coffee. To me, if it's not bitter, it's tea. But I like all things strongly flavored, as you can tell by me smoking a 50% Latakia blend. But this thing is so cool. You know, the filter just sticks to the coffee, and then you go and just push a little puck out, and then try to wipe that off. Oh, that is still hot. But at the house, plane right overhead. At the house, I'll just rinse this off. At the office, I just studiously wipe it off with a paper towel, and you're good to go for the next time. I mean, that plunger is so tight in there. See how steamy that got. The plunger's so tight, it cleans the sidewalls of the chamber. Woo! I'm gonna let that cool off a bit before I spread it out to allow it to cool off quicker. Before I put that in the pack. I brought my little trash bag. I'll use that for my little Debbie wrapper, pipe cleaner. I'll just clean this and the press off better when I get home. But it's so good. Makes such a good cup of coffee. It's obviously really for one cup, but it gives, like, French press is just about my favorite way of making coffee, and that gives real similar results to a French press, but the cleanup is so ridiculously easier. Hear a lot of birds. Hear that plane off, that jet off in the distance. A couple bugs buzzing around. I think it's a lightning bug. But yeah, it's interesting. I've thought about this and tried to pay attention. Past few hikes I've been on, I have never seen a squirrel in the woods while I've been on a hike here. I've seen a lot of chipmunks. And I've seen a lot of squirrels on and around the road when I'm driving in and out. But I've never seen a squirrel while I'm hiking. I'm sure they're there, and I don't know how I could completely miss them, but just find that a little bit interesting. Some sort of gas or oil apparatus behind me. I don't know if you saw it when I was walking in, not the big one over there, but one right here. And I thought, well, surely if it's oil, I'd smell it. And I thought, if it's gas, I could smell it. And I thought, no, natural gas coming out of the ground is scentless. They add an odorant into it to alert you when it's leaking in your house. So I thought, well, hopefully I don't blow up. So far I've had my stove going and my pipe going, so I haven't exploded yet. I'll tell you one thing I am good at. It is losing stuff. There it is, my pipe lighter fell off. Whenever I'm smoking a pipe or a cigar, I love having a pocket on my shirt because I'll put my lighter, my cutter, my tamper, whatever in my shirt pocket just to keep it handy. Otherwise, I generally put it on my lap or something like that. And then the other day when I filmed that that box opening and a couple other videos, I stood up. My Corona Pipe Master fell onto the concrete patio. Didn't do anything to it. Still functions, and I don't think it scratched it up, but oh, that's the second time the little shifting has occurred on this gravel I'm sitting on. Some kind of big old beetle just landed behind me. I gotta be careful with this chair. Unfortunately, I've gained a lot of weight back, especially during this quarantine period. And I'm getting close to the upper limits of this chair's capacity rating. That's beautiful. I don't know how much of the bird song you guys are picking up on my mic. See one flitting overhead. I have some sort of something, I think, attached to my hat bill, catching the sun. It's so warm out, but I wear this shirt is merino wool, which is supposed to be an excellent material for, you know, active wear, and I think it does a pretty good job. It has this hood on it, mostly for gigantic hood. I mean, you see how much it hangs down over my hat bill. It's more for sun protection than insulation, but which I probably ought to leave on. That sun's hitting the back of my neck, but I wear these long sleeves, and then I wear these full-length pants, and you can zip off the legs. I've never done that, but earlier it was a perfect example of why I wear pants when hiking instead of shorts. Got some greenbrier stuck to the pant leg. I felt it tug, but it didn't get my leg. But if I was wearing shorts, it would have been my flesh that it tugged at. That's, you know, and I use trekking poles, and they're so helpful. You know, they're good for balance, and they're good for getting a little bit of the strain into my upper body and off my legs. Excellent for creek crossings and getting over downed trees and things like that. And then when I'm backpacking, I have a tarp for a shelter, so I think I probably mentioned this before, but one is necessary for setting up, and the second one is nice to have. It helps pull the backside out and give a little bit more volume, interior room to the shelter. But I don't know if you can see this little bird up here. I'll tell you what, I love birds. I don't know them at all. You know, I don't know species or calls or anything like that, but I just have always found them very fascinating to watch. They're just beautiful creatures. My grandparents' house in Kaiser, they had like a bay window in their bedroom, and a little card table set up, and they played a lot of games. You know, we would play card games, domino games, rummy cube, things like that. Try to salvage some of that. little bit of the cake. The rest is pretty well ash. A couple tiny pieces of ribbon. Yeah, see if this might suck. This might suck it through the gigantic hole in the bottom of this pipe. I'll just draw easy. But anyhow, so we'd play games in there growing up. Great memories there, spending time with them. And but they had the bay window looking out on their backyard. Bird feeders, including hummingbird feeders. Grandma loved hummingbirds. Made it a little bit easier to get her gifts. what a good combination. Don't know if you just saw that cardinal flash past. Your voice is somewhere. Looks like I'm supposed to go back to the intersection where I made the wrong choice, and it'll go downhill, and based on that guidebook it sounds like there will be like 4 switchbacks down there, all kind of gradual, but I'm about halfway, about a mile in. I paused the All Trails recording. I'm actually recording my trek both on All Trails and with my GPS, but I don't know what the tracking increments are on All Trails. It's pretty short. GPS is every 10 minutes. And so at one point I looked and the All Trails said 0.7 miles I'd come, and the GPS said 0.8, and I thought, what the heck? You know, because usually the GPS is under counting the amount. I thought, well, I don't know. I started the GPS at the car and then started the All Trails at that sign across the road where the trail actually started, and I thought, man, that's just 100, 200 feet away. Surely it wouldn't make that much of a difference, but I guess we'll see what it says in the end. Boy, not too bad on the retro hail, but that was straight up campfire smoke. I mean, it was like getting a lungful when you're roasting marshmallows and blowing out your nose. Looks like West Virginia is going to start opening up here shortly. The governor put out a plan like a timeline of what'll be opening up when over the next couple weeks. I guess they're going to start, the thought is to start testing daycare centers and their employees and everything. I don't know if they'll do the kids or not, but from what my wife has seen on Facebook with the employees she's friends with, got a little goop in there, nothing too bad. Fairly dry smoke, probably a good bit of that goop. I do tend to blow back through the pipe a tiny bit here and there, but I think that causes a lot of the condensation problems. But anyway, it sounds like they're saying, you know what, we don't know what's going to happen yet. They don't have I don't think a very set in stone plan, but you know, I've loved this time with the boys, but I am looking forward to kind of having daycare as an option again. And get them back school, you know, school closed permanently as far as school buildings. A couple weeks ago we finally called it, or a week ago, something like that, but you know, I don't want to have it where we both are able to go back to work but don't have daycare, so then we'll have to figure that out, whether we, you know, I think my wife's office, they said no kids initially before they said go home, and so I'm not sure how they'll handle that, if they'll allow kids in the building or not. I think my workplace will be a little bit more forgiving, but be interesting to see how this, how this all unfolds. But I'll be happy to get somewhat back to normal, and I think the best thing for this is just continue the cautions with those vulnerable elderly or people with, you know, diabetes or any of the lung problems or pre-existing conditions that make them more susceptible to this stuff. But get the healthier people and the less susceptible people out there, build up the herd immunity. I think that's the best thing for us, get the economy going again, and basically get everything back somewhat to normal. Of course, when that happens, eventually, you know, my wanderings in the woods will be greatly reduced, I'd say, because we'll start getting back into sports, and my son, my oldest, will get into baseball. My youngest, I think he was expressing interest in t-ball. At first he said no, and now it sounds like he wants to, so I'm excited about that. I love baseball. I love watching the boys play. But there's also soccer. My youngest played soccer last year. He might get back into that, but you know, it's just good times and good memories in another format rather than out here hiking on my own. I'll get my solitude at the office, I guess, if you can call that solitude. But that's too far away for me to reach. But anyhow, I think I'm going to sit here for a few more minutes sipping my coffee, eat my little delicious little Debbie cake, and get back on the road and finish up this hike, tape anything else that's interesting or pretty or whatever. But for now, I'll cut this chat portion off. This is what I'm facing now. I mean, it is beautiful. Little creek. There's a bit of a spring further up that feeds into this, I'd say. But things like this, scenes like this, and great views, and I mean, that's why I love hiking and backpacking. Just get out of the norm, disconnect, get a little closer to God. It's just beautiful. All that water is just coming out of that little spring right there. Looks like that's the road down there. You can see, maybe you can make out that red, I think, diamond blaze. I switched a little while back onto the Pigeon Roost Trail. Overall, well, the latter part has been a very wet bit. No, sorry, red circles. A very wet bit of trail. Lots of springs and creeks. And pretty. But yeah, looks like that's the road, so I'm gonna go hit that and backtrack a little bit to my car, and I'll be done for the day. Thanks for tuning in, guys.